Thank you. Good morning. Happy to be here again. I was here quite a few years ago, and sorry I haven't come more often, but I'm happy to be in Sweden. I just came back also from Oslo, which I visited shortly, and I was happy to be with the resurrected Steinar, and quite alive and strong, and I was happy to see him, and members also from UPF there, and I could appreciate also some of the beauty of Norway, the Christian foundation of Norway, and the exploring spirit of Norway by going to the museum of the explorers, Amundsen, who went to the South Pole and so on. It was beautiful. And I've been, of course, coming here and been very well taken care of by Mikael and the Jolin family, and I'm happy to be here together with them. We had the chance also to meet some important people here, particularly this scholar, Dr. Swanstrom, who is a very important person, as I could see. I mean, he's been working with us in UPF already for quite some time. Not working with us, but he's been attending some of our events, I would say. And he's really a negotiator who has a very strong spirit, and also I feel he has a very good vision for peace, and he's working hard for this between North and South Korea, between Taiwan and China, and so on. So coming to Scandinavia, we know that Scandinavian countries are countries that have strong spirit for peace in the world, as we know. I'm also, by the way, studying at UTS, HJI, as you know, the UTS now is called HJI, and the Master of Peace Studies, and that's where I'm learning about the Peace Foundation in all of your countries here. So that's why I'm happy also to be here. I will begin, I will entitle my speech this morning, Time of Opportunity, Time of Responsibility, for young leaders. Well, let me start first. Just as I was about to come here, I thought I should read something, and I opened the book, which I have always with me, and I thought I should read a speech. So it's not a speech, it's a testimony, but I'm sure many of you will recognize. But I will read first. I experienced the spirit world while I was on earth, and I also experienced the real God in various ways. That is why I've never doubted the existence of the spirit world. But I did not know that this invisible world exists forever, or that our appearance is the same as in the substantial world. I've never treated it with systematic logic, nor did God ever teach me about it. There are so many people on earth. If they would accept and understand the existence of the invisible world, they would live completely different lives. My theories based on my experiences that I recorded and left as books on earth are groundless. They were only assumptions of what might be. Only an extremely small part of these were written down, but divine principle and unification thought are explaining the spirit world philosophically, theologically, historically, and with accurate details based on the purpose of creation. The way to the spirit world is open, so that even a blind man can discover the way to the invisible world. Is there any gospel more important than this? It is truly excellent. No one who is educated in the basic principles of the invisible world and the substantial world could go to hell. Because most people cannot realize the truth, they cannot escape from the eternal thorns of hell. I had much experience of spiritual phenomena while I was alive on earth. I would like to tell you just about one episode among them. Most of my experience of the spirit world was God's teaching to humankind about the phenomena of the invisible world. One day, as I was praying and meditating, suddenly a bright light appeared in the rain and took me somewhere. Just as suddenly the light disappeared and lightning and thunder started. Along with the sounds of thunder, I could hear roars, groans, and loud cries. I wondered what place this was and looked over the place in detail. I found people pressed down by a huge stone, as if an earthquake had taken place. I was overcome with fear as I heard shouts for help from bloody figures. I soon realized I was in hell. I thought that the light was truly God and that he wanted me to see them because he wanted to ask me to save them. God was teaching me that there was hell in the invisible world and that if you commit sin, you will come here. I regret that I could not realize it at that time. Even though I had salvation from God, I could not help God. My mind was tormented. I thanked the lecturers many times, but that's not enough. My heart really aches. The lecturers here understand God's heart and practice accordingly. Father, I'm sorry, and I know who is the hero of the principle. It is Reverend Moon. When I listened to the lectures, I would glance at the master's face. I would see in his face too much heartbreak, and I saw him receiving God's love. I know it's late, but I would like to help God and true parents. I could not explain the spirit world systematically because we did not have systematic logic that applied to the spirit world. Now, hearing the logical basis to teach about the spirit world makes me stand straight. True parents of humankind, I will attend you and study the unification principle diligently and with hope, and I will harmonize my spiritual experiences with the unification principle and let people here know this. I will always make effort for that and pray for that. True parents, thank you for your hard work. I believe in the teachings of the Father of humankind. I will do my best until I meet you. Thank you very much. Emanuel Swedenborg, October 3rd, 2001. So I thought I should read that to you because that's your foundation. And he's the one who gave such a testimony to true parents. I'm reading the back, there's a Pyonghwa Kumgyong that we had many spiritual messages from Father. When Father began the UPF, Father gave a series of 15 or I think 18 spirit world messages, peace messages. And at that time also, just before that, Father had a series of messages from spirit world, from many Christian saints and many Muslim saints and Buddhist saints, and there are 12 of each, and Swedenborg is the number 12 in the Christian group. So I know I'm in a special country, and that's why I'm happy to share with you some thoughts. I know we don't have much time, but why do I speak to young leaders? Because there are young leaders here. I met some of you yesterday. I met Peter and, of course, Janet and others, you. And I'm happy that we have young people, but also because I feel the time is so short with True Mother on earth, and that this is a time of opportunity, but also the time of responsibility, because people achieve great things when they're young. Afterwards, they just work on developing things, but actually, unless you are able, and Father said that many times, unless you're able in your 30s to really already make your foundation, then afterwards your life will become small and smaller and smaller. So that's why, the great saint, the great even heroes or the great kings or I was thinking of, I read the story of Charles the 12th, I think, your national ancestor, king, and Peter the Great, and such people, even Napoleon in France, or Alexander, of course, and of course Jesus. They all did the greatest things. Some of them not always very good, but actually they did great things when they were in their 30s, And that's why when we know true parents are alive and we have such an incredible opportunity, and that even the spirit world, the reason I wanted to share Swedenborg with you, because you can see, the regret that people who went to spirit world were not able to understand completely what we can understand today, because we understand theologically, historically, and so on, as you say, philosophically, all of this. Then we know not only we can avoid trouble on the earth, but we can also help others avoid trouble on the earth. If many young people knew about spirit world, they would not get involved into terrible things as they do today and damaging their lives. And people have no idea of the spirit world. And when I met true parents, I'm not a very spiritually open person. I don't have all kinds of spiritual experiences. I've had some good ones and bad ones. But I've seen the spirit world. I've seen and I've heard the spirit world work with us, and I know and I'm convinced, especially when I was in Africa, and I'm convinced, I just know the spirit world is working. And when Father was leaving, preparing to leave this earth, Father was saying, this is the age of responsibility, and this is the age of association between spiritual world and physical world. You have to work with your ancestors, you have to work with your spirit world of your nation, and they will work with you. When Father even said Hundoke, you do Hundoke, and then you have, I forgot, he said 6 or 8 generations coming with you, coming to you, listening to Hundoke. Just read Father's speech. Father gave that last speech for 2 years. When mentioned it yesterday to Peter. Father had that one speech that he gave for 2 years, going all over Europe. Father gave the same speech, and every morning Father gave the same speech. And whenever we attended some meetings with Father, he gave us that speech. So you have to read it in Korean, in English, you have to learn it by heart. I put everything in that speech. And that's the last speech Father gave. And he talked about many things, and he said about, spirit world will work with you. If you read Hundoke, then your ancestors will study with you and work with you. So that's why, there are so many important things that we need to understand. And I wanted to take about responsibility. I was praying last night, and I thought the word that came to me was responsibility. Mother always talks about responsibility, as you know. And it's a word that we use so much in the divine principle that sometimes we don't understand, we don't take it so for its value. When I was a young member, I was, after a couple of years, I was sent to World Mission Department in New York, and I was working on the Reverend Kwak. And when I came to that mission in 1978 from France, Reverend Kwak was a big leader. He was the biggest leader in New York for our movement. And I was working in the office under him. And then one day he told me, Jacques, you should contact France. I need some information from this person and that person. That's, I think, for the New Hope Singer or something. He said that simply. And I said, okay, I will do that. I'll try. I tried to contact France. I could not reach, and I could not get the answer. And then I kind of forgot. And then a couple of days later, a week later, Reverend Kwak, met me in the hallway and said, so Jacques, what happened with this connection? And kind of lightly I said, oh, sorry, Reverend Kwak, I forgot to tell you, I just could not reach them. And then he looked at me and said, your responsibility. And then for the first time I understood what responsibility means, you know, is not something you can deal lightly with. I really felt, you know, the power of the words. And Reverend Kwak was someone who knew how to scold people. Maybe Julie knows, I don't know. So, anyway, that's why for me, the term responsibility is so serious. And also because Mother always speaks about this. You know, even when Mother keeps repeating, you know, I was born and then, but God had to, you know, give me responsibility. That's why God had to protect me until I could fulfill my responsibility. Mother always speaks about this. And then she often says, you know, if you don't fulfill responsibility, you know what happens afterwards, you know? Indemnity. And people sometimes feel Mother is always a bit too much and too strong and too... But Mother knows more than anyone else. If you don't fulfill responsibility, there is indemnity. Who knows better than Mother what this kind of issue, you know, even in their own family, in their own, you know, so much burden. And we're discussing about only begotten daughter yesterday a little bit. And some people also feel we feel troubled sometimes about Mother emphasizing, you know, a lot this position. But actually, when I think about it, when I realize this, I feel when Mother speaks about only begotten daughter, she thinks of her responsibility. She thinks of her responsibility toward Christianity. She's not thinking about some kind of glorious title. She's thinking, that's my responsibility, you know, and that's why she said, you have to go. You have to meet them. You have to reach out to them, because still it's time. It's time to reach out to them. You know, it's not yet finished. Jesus died on the cross, and it was over for the Jewish people. They lost Jesus, opportunity for Jesus, and he had no spouse, you know. And so they went through huge indemnity, as we know, not just recently, but even all their life, all their history. And Mother knows. Mother knows that once we cannot use the time well, then there is, you know, prolongation, and there is some suffering, and there is difficulty. And who knows better than Mother when she sees her own children and her own family and her own, you know, I mean, what can Mother think? And I feel that's why, as we discussed yesterday briefly, Mother, you know, about, you know, Mother is reflecting upon her life and upon our life, and especially when she came after, you know, Father passed away, she said, I took responsibility. You know, she says, I stood there and I did it, and I declared Chon Il Guk, and she stood there with the scepter, with the crown, and how difficult it must be to stand with a crown and with a big coat and with the scepter and say, I am the queen of the world, you know. How difficult it is. How huge responsibility that is. Because we know it's not a matter of glory yet, you know. It's a matter of responsibility. And she said, I will do it. And then she did, she went on and prayed a lot. And I think Mother, as we shared yesterday, she's talking, about True Father and about the course of the past. And she's basically giving us the overall course of true parents' responsibility, and then there is different stages in the course, as I mentioned. I mean, this is my feeling, my own interpretation. Of course, I'm just sharing my thinking about this, but, just like True Father shared about Jesus' responsibility, Moses' responsibility, in course number 1, course number 2, course number 3, and Father teaches us what the Jews don't know. Who knows what Moses went through? Father knows Moses better than the Jewish people, in reality. He knows why Moses was told he would enter Canaan, but he could not enter. Who knows this? Father understood. And he knows that Jesus was supposed to save the world, but he could not really save the world completely, physically. Father knew why. He understood. So he taught us about responsibility. And Mother, I feel now she's teaching about True Parents Course, because she's the last one, she's the only one who can teach about True Parents Course. Nobody else can do. Only she can do when she's still alive. And that's why she's teaching some things about true parents' responsibility. There was a first course, but that course, just like Moses should enter in 21 days into Canaan, but actually Moses could not, because, there was some problem. People did not follow him. He killed the Egyptian, and then people did not follow him, And that's why he had to wait, and he had to pay indemnity. He went to the desert, and then he tried this 21-month course, And then, again, there was all kinds of problems, and then there was some test, and somehow they failed the test, right? Except 2 people who succeeded the test, but the others failed, and so there was a prolongation again, And yet, God did not give up. God did not give up. And then after that, God asked these 2 people. Sometimes we talk about Joshua, and I realized recently this point. We think of Joshua and Caleb as a second generation. They are not second generation. They are first generation who endured and who had faith until the end. Because actually they came from Egypt with Moses, and then they actually were there with Moses, and they are the ones who stayed when many others left, or at least had no faith. And then that's why God told them, in the last course, after all the period of waiting, lasted 40 years, then he said, okay, Joshua, you lead the others. He was old already, but he had faith, and then God told him, you go forward, and then he led all the young people into Canaan. Mother often speaks about this also. And when you read Joshua, the book of Joshua, you know how after all this indemnity was paid and so much suffering, if you read the beginning of the book of Joshua, it's so interesting because it looks like the time of indemnity is over. God says, Joshua, you lead them, I will be with you. If your mind is centering on the word, on the law, I will be with you every step on the way. If you make one step, I will give you that land. That step will be your land, and so on. Just go with courage and wisdom and courage. Yeah? This is what God told Joshua, and they went, and they succeeded finally. So I feel when Mother speaks about Moses, she has that. About our movement, she sometimes refers to Moses because she has that kind of spirit. She tries to push us with those of us who are still a little bit like Joshua, trying to be like Joshua. She tells us, be like Joshua and Caleb, because Joshua and Caleb, so they worked together well. They didn't fight each other, Mother often repeats this one. Even in Munich, she repeated this. And then, go ahead with the young generation, go and fight and open the door to Canaan. That's why I feel the time of responsibility is so, the term and the meaning is so important. And we cannot miss this time because Mother will not live forever. And unless Mother is with us, we cannot understand how to go, where to go. Can you imagine if True Mother had not been with us after Father passed away? Our movement would not exist anymore, I think. Our movement would not exist. It would have split, divided, and all kinds of things. So that is why, Mother being with us and standing strong, steadfast, and not, but desperate. And in her heart, she wants to reach to the Christians because they are the center. She's reaching the Muslims. She's not just thinking the Christians. She first went to the Muslims in Africa, actually, because she knew the Muslims will welcome her better than the Christians. She knows, and they did. But, she knows the Christians are the ones who can understand the heart and understand this is a period of transition that we need to move into. It's very important. And that's why I want to read this passage from Father. I alluded to that yesterday. Hope I can still find it here. Yes. I want to read two passages. One from Mother, whom you know well. History is calling for reconciliation, compassion, love, service, sacrifice. Today's problems cannot be solved by the logic of power. Our present problems can only be solved by the logic of love. Mother stood on those words to initiate Women's Federation tour and work in 1992. And that was part of her speech in 1992. In the past, we've worked with power, with a reason only, with reason. But now we have to move into a different era because true parents were proclaimed. Mother began the Women's Federation after true parents proclaimed, publicly true parents, or at least, publicly true parents, 1992, the blessing, whoever was at the time, 1992. You know, I was at the time in Congo, and I'll never forget, because it was the first time we had, satellite blessing, and many of the Congolese could not go to the blessing for years, and that had created a lot of trouble in this country. And so, we tried to work for the blessing, and it was such a difficult time, indemnity, war, all kinds of things. And then finally, in this broken down country, because there had been civil war, totally broken down, we had managed to get satellite through the national television. And then I remember when the blessing started, we had this big screen, all our members were outside for the blessing that they could not receive for years and years and years. And I thought, that will never work. How can that work, Satellite, the country was broken, everything was in shambles. But then suddenly the screen lit, and true parents appeared on the screen. And then what struck me is I saw true parents for the first time walking down the stairs, of the stadium, side by side, exactly same step, together. Before, if you saw father and mother, always mother were one step behind. Father and mother was always careful to be one step behind. But actually, when true parents were proclaimed, afterwards they were constantly on the same level. That struck me a lot, because I saw something. It took me time to realize what it was. And actually, that's the first time in 92, true parents proclaimed true parents, officially, publicly, although we knew, of course, on our level, but it had not been publicly proclaimed before, because Father could do this on the foundation of Cain Abel unity and Russia and America and so on, and Kim Il-sung. So, anyway, so this is a time of, I don't even know why I mentioned you this sample, but this is a time of transition, and I want to read you that special speech from True Father. There was True Mother of the Women's Federation, and I lost my, okay, it's coming. The second speech is part of that speech. I've read that many times, because for me that speech has many, many treasures, but that speech of Father, the last speech of Father's life, 2 years before he died, every day. Okay, this is one part of it. If you examine the flow of history based on historical providence, you can classify 3 broad stages. First was the nature-centered era, a time of instinctual feelings, materialism, and closeness to animals and the elements of the creation. The next stage was a human-centered era, when knowledge, feelings, and emotions took precedence and dominated the world. When Father speaks of that, he refers like the Old Testament, centering on the body, and justification by deeds. And when Father speaks on the feelings and emotion and human beings, actually, essentially, we can say it was fulfilled through the New Testament era. And I believe, this is my interpretation again, but I believe that we are coming at the end of this era. This is what Father says. So the time when knowledge, feelings, emotions took precedent and dominated the world. That's today. Knowledge, feelings, emotions, human rights, all of this today. But, however, these eras were temporary. They were courses of preparation that were necessary in order to enter the era in which people could rid themselves of fallen nature, return to their original self, and live as one united family, attending God as their Father. As this realm of heart unfolds, we will enter a God-centered era. The final stage. Human beings will experience God's heart and will as their own, and will follow the path of living for the sake of others. They will do this by establishing an absolute standard on the foundation of having renewed themselves, both inside and out, through the holy blessing ceremony. Please engrave this in your heart. In other words, Father says, these two eras, we are completing one era, but we're actually entering into a new era. It's not the end. The age of human rights, the age of feelings and emotions and knowledge and everything, science, is okay, but it's a transition. We're actually moving towards something else. And the people, the scholars, they don't really know that. Political leaders. And they're stuck, getting stuck, because they don't see where the world is going. The world is going towards the era of heart, the era of God. God. That means beyond religion. God means beyond religion. God is not inside the religion. God is beyond, above religion. Above religion. The era of heart, that means the era, essentially, of the family. Because where does the heart develop? What did God create to develop the heart? It's the family. The family. And that is why, that means in this era we move to a whole new level. And what Father is saying, and then even afterwards Father is saying, a few paragraphs before, Father says, and how do you go in there? What will it take to get there? And Father said, just like the white-necked cranes, who try to go over the Himalaya before winter comes. We have to have that spirit and endurance. We have to have that spirit and endurance to prepare for that transition. His Father is not saying, we will just enter the God-centered era through just big festivals and music and just dancing and everything. Father is saying, you've got to be like those white-necked cranes. I don't know if you've seen the documentary. The cranes, they come from the north, but the winter is coming, and they have to go down over the Himalaya to go south. And some of them struggle, some of them cannot, and they try to land, and they try to fly again over the top, and only a few of them succeed. So Father said you have to have that kind of endurance, that kind of a spirit, because winter is coming. So that is why those words to me are very important, because actually Father is speaking about the era that we actually live in. Of course, we know because Father speaks about the blessing. What is inaugurating this era is a blessing. The blessing means Father is recreating families, because never we were living as ideal families. And so, we lived as individuals, and all the scholars, they came to analyze the world through individuals. So individual is the center of the world, right? If you study sociology, if you study anything, it's all centering on individuals, human rights, and so on. But the ideal world is not centering on the individual, it's centering on family structure. Family structure. So when we speak, when Father speaks about the world of heart, there is so much content behind. Because the only place where the heart can develop, God created human beings for the heart to develop in a very safe environment of father, mother, brothers and sisters. You know, what we call the four realms of heart. Father explained this. The first time Father explained this is in 1992. In the Divine Principle, we don't talk about four realms of heart. We talk about three. I think there are 3 stages of heart or something. But we don't talk about four realms of heart. Father started speaking in 1992 after he proclaimed true parents. That means, as I was explaining my thoughts, okay? It's not, I'm not giving absolute theory here. I'm interpreting my understanding, okay? I feel that one of the most precious teaching of true parents is the four realms of heart. Because it looks very simple, but it's not simple at all. If you study, you know, sociologists and others, how do they think psychology is developing through different ways, different stages, and so on, right? But they don't talk. Oops. Sorry, I should be silent. But they don't, they don't talk about heart. They don't know about heart. And so only Father can explain about heart. Only Father can explain what is about heart. And then, you know, the heart of the child with faith and obedience first, and then the heart of brothers and sisters with, like solidarity and sharing and so on, right? Sharing with each other. And Christianity, Jesus brought us to this second stage, but he could not bring us higher. Jesus could not bring us higher. Jesus could not bring us to the higher level of heart. And I believe that when Mother keeps saying, you know, you have to teach the essence of Jesus, the essence of God. You know, Mother speaks a lot about Christianity. She said they had a great vision, but Christianity did a lot of trouble in reality because they did not understand the essence of God. And they did not understand the essence of Jesus. And when she means the essence of Jesus, she means Jesus was supposed to have a wife and become parents. The Christians do not know this. And because they do not know this, their whole understanding of the ideal individual is either man or woman, but not together. And that's the problem we have today, everywhere. You can see Catholic Church, you know, even Protestant Church, even Muslims, they all get stuck on the issue of man and woman relationship. They get stuck. You know, the Catholic Church with their priests who don't marry, they have all kinds of struggle inside the Catholic Church. You know, the Protestant Church today, they bless, you know, homosexual marriages, and they don't even know what's really marriage, you know. The Muslims also, they have a problem with the man and woman. It's all the religions are getting stuck on this third stage because they do not understand what is God's viewpoint there. Because they do not understand God himself is through man and woman, as true parents teach. That is why, you know, the whole blessing movement, what Father is saying in that speech, the whole blessing movement is opening a new era. And of course we know the blessing is not also easy. For many of us, blessing has been difficult. Even sometimes, you know, because of blessing, some of our members just disappeared. Many. Because it's difficult challenge to overcome also in some cases, in many cases. But because we have to, just like, you know, the monks and the priests and in the Christian realm, they were educated through the heart of faith and obedience, the heart of brotherhood, but not beyond. Then true parents are taking us beyond to another stage through the blessed families and then to the realm of parents. Why true parents could do that and could teach that? Because they succeeded and they proclaimed the era of parents. They proclaimed the era of parents. Then Father could teach about the forums of heart. And then Father could explain afterwards, what is our philosophy? We are not we're not just pro-capitalism or communism. We want to be headwing. And Father says headwing is the parental philosophy. If you want to understand headwing, that's the philosophy of parents. That means Father is using the whole context of the family to define how we should relate with each other, how we should establish politics, and so on. So when when we use the term interdependence, mutual prosperity, universal values, which is our motto, right? The final motto, universal values are the values based on the forums of heart, and the three great, kingships, and then also the parent, teacher, and leader, and so on. All these teachings, which Father gave in 92. That's the base. Only with this teaching can we actually open the door to clarify all the confusion today, whether it's a LGBT confusion, whether it's a communism, Marxism, all this confusion that we discussed yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about collective ownership of means of production. Who wants to do that now? I heard from Peter, I didn't know, but I heard some people dare to think that they can steal. This is the ideal. When you know what has happened to Russia, to the Soviet Union with the collectivism, it was a total failure. Total failure. Terrible. I went to Russia. I could see, how people hate each other. Because of that kind of ideology. They hated their leaders. So unless we teach such kind of only through a certain ethics, family ethics, then we can move into the world in a different way. Okay? Then we can harmonize collectivism and individualism. Then we should harmonize them. We can connect them. Only the family can connect the individual purpose and the whole purpose, centering on the heart. Only in the family you learn to live your individual purpose and your whole purpose, centering on the heart. On the heart, in a good family. That's why Father said the family is the root of democracy. The root of democracy. So these points are, to me, some are so crucial that we need to understand and we need to teach because, this is the essence of Jesus and this is the essence of Christianity and God Himself. That is why we have such a great, responsibility, because all the spirit world, people like Swedenborg and others, many others in the spirit world, they could not understand those things. Some of them sacrificed their lives, but they could not understand these points. Like even Swedenborg said himself from the spirit world. That is why I'm saying this is a time for opportunity and responsibility. Even though we are under strong attack in our movement, and not just in our movement, religions are under attack because it's really the last days, last kind of struggle. But we have the most important tool, which is vision and truth, spirit and truth, like Mother says, spirit and truth. And I think young people, you need to take that on. Take that on. I thought here Sweden was the heart of Protestantism. I mean, after the division, the war, the 30-year war, Europe was divided. Of course, Germany, but Sweden was the most powerful nation of Protestantism. Actually, almost took over Russia, right, at that time. But Russia kept, and you had still Orthodoxy, Catholicism, all these struggles. We have to find a way to deal with those. We have to find a way to deal with those. That is why This is our mission, and it's so important that our young leaders, because many of you have had the chance to study, which many of us did not have the chance to study when we joined, you are able to reach leaders of society on a much deeper level. I tell you, search unification thought, search divine principle. There is a wealth of information there. As I told you, Swedenborg, what's his name? Our doctor, the one we had dinner with, Swanstrom. Almost same. Swanstrom, he, as I said, he's a great man. I felt, wow, he's really, juggling between American, he went 50 times to North Korea, by the way, 50 times already. He's not an old man. He went there 50 times, That means he's working hard, He's a great negotiator. And then he turned to me and said, but you have a great organization, Think Tank 2022. You're doing amazing things. What are you doing, It's like, and that's why he comes to our summit also. He wants to come, Because he knows that actually we're not on the same professional level that he is. But spiritually, we can mobilize not just physical people, but spiritual people as well. And that's the work of True Mother, and century on True Mother and True Father. And that's our responsibility today. And I feel that it's very, very important. We need younger members, second generation, to take more responsibility. Not just by being active and going fundraising is good, but please study True Parents' thought, True Parents' teaching. The value of True Parents' teaching is the only thing that can help open up and clarify the lies of Marxism, the mistakes or the misunderstandings, let's say, to be more kind. Misunderstandings of Marxism and all these things. You know how much people suffer with all this junk that is going on today, transgenderism and all kinds of things. You heard about Elon Musk, why he decided to support Trump. He said, because the transgender people killed my son. The pain of a parent to the child, because he had a son who became a girl, and he felt so outraged because he felt so much manipulation there, the craziness of what's going on. Fortunately, people start to see, and that's why probably Trump got more voters than expected, because people start to be fed up with all this junk. But in Europe, still, it's very strong. How can you clarify what's wrong there unless you have divine principle? You cannot. You cannot. You can discuss, you can argue with your reason, but you cannot point to the wrongness of it. That's why Causa was so important, and people came to listen to Causa with even great leaders, because they felt there was some viewpoint that they had never heard before that could pierce through the lies of communism. Otherwise, it's creating some kind of a fog of good feelings, good emotions, good feelings and everything. But behind this, there are falsities that actually damage people's lives. That's why it's our responsibility to teach and to start such kind of a lecturing and find a way, find a way. We cannot let this go on. Otherwise, our own children will be involved in these things, and then we will suffer. That's what Mother said. Please, don't waste your time. This is a time when she's here. We have to do something. Thank you very much.